afternoon to everybody out there. Welcome back to the GOAT Fantasy Football Podcast with your host, Jim Neander. So I hope you all had a great day yesterday. Lots of fun football, lots of points scored, especially wide receivers and quarterbacks. Not so much for the running backs yesterday, but lots of big games, man. I had one game, let me tell you. So, week to week, this is what happens with fantasy football, right? You have the highs, the lows, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, as they say. And, last week I lost a game with about a minute and a half left to go on the Monday night on a tackle, in an individual defensive player league, an IDP league, and lost by less than a quarter of a point. And last night was able to hold on to a lead by less than a point, where the defensive player was going off all game. First quarter went crazy with tackles, and I just assumed that the loss was there. I started the game up by almost 16 points and playing only this one defensive player, and held on by less than a point. It looked like anyway. It was wild, man. I was sweating it, and when it came down to the end there, man. But it's good. It's good to get one back this week. So it was a tough loss last week. Good one to get one back. So I hope you all had some similar success stories. Hit on a lot of picks this week. I mean, a lot of the games that we broke down here, a lot of our predictions really did come to fruition this week. So it was good to see, some of that work coming through as well. And just a good week all around. So hope everyone's having a nice Monday here. We're going to jump into our first segment here, our Monday morning rock stars and mock stars. So guys that you played that, probably helped your lineup a good deal, and some guys that you played that certainly did not. We're going to jump right into here, rock stars and mock stars. We're going to start with our rock star quarterbacks, Kyler Murray. Number one on the week, man. He had a great week, not only passing the ball, but also rushing the ball. Unfortunately, in a loss for the Cardinals, but not a loss for your fantasy football team. Josh Allen absolutely crushed it against Seattle. Patrick Mahomes, no shocker here, another great game. Drew Lock, welcome to the rock stars list. Great game yesterday. Had the matchup against the Falcons. We said he was going to be a top streamer for the week, and he definitely performed. Aaron Rodgers, another big name to add to the list here. And we're going to finish it off with Teddy Bridgewater, another name that we threw out there as one of the top streaming candidates in a potentially high-scoring game against Kansas City, and that's basically exactly how it went out. So, Teddy Bridgewater, have yourself a game, buddy. All right, so we're going to keep with quarterbacks here, going over to mock stars. These quarterbacks were in your lineup, but they definitely did not help you out here. We're going to start with Tom Brady, and unfortunately, you're probably going to see a lot of Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the mock stars, but Brady, awful game. Really hard to win if you had him in your lineup there. Phillip Rivers, another brutal one, maybe not so heavily started. Matthew Stafford, hate to go down with an injury there, but played a lot before the injury and just wasn't making it happen. Derek Carr in a big win. Just didn't throw the ball a lot, not a lot of volume. If you threw him out there as your streamer for this week, it did not pan out for you. And lastly, we're going to talk about Ryan Tannehill. A victory against the Bears, but a real ugly kind of a game. Not a lot of offense in that game. And, if you roll Tannehill out there expecting the efficiency numbers to carry you through, it was going to be a tough one there for you. So, all right, let's move on to running backs here. Let's get to our rock star running backs. And there weren't that many of them this week. Really, there were two, big rock stars, right? Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey. Welcome back, Christian McCaffrey. Have yourself a game. But looked fantastic, really did. And that's what we were missing. Really missed having Christian McCaffrey out there. And it was great to see him. And then, they far outscored everybody else. And then to a lesser extent, but still having very good games, J.D. McKissick, Kalen Ballage, and James Robinson. I know, I feel like there's a glitch in the matrix that I just said Kalen Ballage as a rock star this week. But, man, that was all right. Now, so here's the thing. There were lots of bad running backs this week. Lots of what we're calling mock stars. But, it was overall a bad week for running backs, right? So in a week where Ryan Nall of the Chicago Bears is a running back one currently, and Gabe Neighbors outscored Derrick Henry, it was a tough running back week. But let's go through some of the ones that really hurt you here. Justin Jackson and David Johnson both left early due to injury, but either way you slice it, you probably had them in your lineup and really, really paid for it. We're going to go with either of the Denver Broncos running backs here. Both Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon definitely weighed you down. I think neither one of them scored over 4 points. It was a pretty brutal go. JaMychal Hasty, one of those top candidates for, maybe one more big week, and didn't do a damn thing. James Conner, rough game there, in a game that Pittsburgh should have been, dominating. We all expected them to, and they just really didn't, but got the win anyway. Ronald Jones hurt also. Again, the Buccaneers, they all kind of sucked. David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Derrick Henry. Whew, Henry doesn't get you those touchdowns or those monstrous yards. It's tough because you don't get those receptions. So, yeah, tough week for running backs. Let's go to some brighter news here. Let's go to our wide receiver rock stars. Richie James from Thursday night, also Devontae Adams from Thursday night. Both crazy. One of these guys will be in your lineup next week, and one of these guys will probably not. I'm going to let you guess which is which. Tyreek Hill had something like 54 targets, I think. Nah, I think it was something like 18. We'll get into that, but that was freaking wild, man. Great game, Tyreek Hill. DJ Chark. Curtis Samuel. Another big game. Jerry Jeudy, here's one that we definitely want to talk about. We'll get into more detail when we talk about the game, but had him pegged for a big game this week, kind of a coming out game for him. Matchup was great against Atlanta. Tim Patrick a little bit banged up. Just so all those things kind of aligning, and he had a monster. Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, all these guys had big games. There were other good games here, but we're going to cut it off there. And let's talk about our mock star wide receivers here. Darius Slayton, a guy that I liked this week, didn't make it happen at all. Trent Taylor on Thursday, maybe you took a shot in the dark there thinking, who's going to be the wide receiver? Somebody has to catch the ball for San Francisco. Yeah, it was Richie James, not Trent Taylor. Russell Gage, same thing here. Well, Calvin Ridley's out. Let's take a swing at Russell Gage maybe. I wasn't really recommending it, but I totally see how you could do that. No, it was an Olamide Zacchaeus game. You should have known that. Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, man, those both hurt, bad too. Both Tampa receivers, all three Tampa receivers. I mean, Mike Evans saying he was barely okay. Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, El Terrible, no bueno. And Hollywood Brown, the squeaky wheel, didn't get any fucking grease. The squeaky wheel got just like fucking taken off the car and replaced basically. But it wasn't a great game for Baltimore anyway, especially through the air, even in a victory. But yeah, Hollywood, I don't know what we're doing moving forward. We got to see. He might be designated to not flex category. All right, tight ends here. Let's go. Let's finish it out with our tight end rock stars. Travis Kelce, you know the man here. Number one in your hearts. Number one on fantasy charts. Almost weekly. Travis Kelce, something like 10 for 159. Doesn't even need a touchdown to be the number one tight end on the week. Jimmy Graham right now, the number two tight end. Nice game, Jimmy Graham. Had the targets, some nice yards, had a touchdown. He's involved in the offense. Evan Ingram, same thing. Volume is there. The efficiency isn't, but for tight end, he's doing really well. I might have to change my tune on Evan Ingram. Can't even believe I'm saying that. Jonnu Smith back in the end zone. TJ Hawkinson back in the end zone has also some good volume. So a little movement here at tight end. It's a little crazy. Let's talk about the mock stars at tight end. Some of the guys that did not help your team. Rob Gronkowski, add another buck to the list here. Brutal game for Gronk. Jordan Reed, so you know the deal. We talked about it the Thursday game. I was never going to play Jordan Reed, again in my career. And don't think at this point I will. It's no offense to him. He's had some great years, but he's just, one of those things when you're snake bitten and, you can't let it go, just like I can't. You can't play him. Robert Tonyan. Jared Cook. Not a great game for Jared Cook at all. They really were able to, turn the brakes on there in the second half. They were up so much, but would like to see a little bit more from Jared Cook. You see the other tight ends there, getting some work, right? Josh Hill got some work. Adam Troutman, the rookie, right, got a touchdown and a little bit of work. So that makes it a little bit tougher for Cook owners to swallow. And Mark Andrews, man, it's getting bad with him. If the touchdowns aren't there, then what do you do? Because, if you're not going to have touchdowns as a tight end, you got to have serious volume, like catching 5 balls a game, every game kind of volume, like Hayden Hurst does right now. Right, he's not scoring a lot of touchdowns, but he's going 5, 6 catches for 50, 60, yards, and you got to do that every week, to pull up those numbers. And we're gonna just add one more here. It's no offense to him, but Donald Parham, you're only a mock star because you were this close from being a rock star. Great almost catch to win that game. The snake-bitten Chargers, man, they look good, but something's got to be done about their ability to win games at the end and just close it out. So I don't know. Anthony Lynn, not getting the best reputation right now as a clutch, coach in that sense, as far as making the right decisions. Playing, maybe people he shouldn't be playing, and not able to get this team to close it out. So, all right, let's move on to our preview of Week 9. Again, there were some really fun games here. We're going to go through 6 or 7 games. We'll see how many we get to. We got the waiver wire show tomorrow, so we definitely want to leave a good chunk of time tomorrow for the waiver wires. So, let's jump in here with our first game. We're going to stay here in Atlanta here. We're going to go with the Denver Broncos, who came to Atlanta to challenge the Falcons. Falcons win another game here, 34-27. Good Lord, even though their season seems like it's, probably lost at this point, you still don't want to see them giving up these fourth quarter leads. And holy shit, if you didn't get that feeling like it might happen again. I mean, Denver pulled within 1 score, had the ball, and, fuck, man. It was, I can't call myself a big Falcons fan by any means. It's almost like you just want, people to catch a break. I mean, how much heartbreak can one fan base take, in a short amount of time. So, it's good to see them hold on to that lead. There's a lot of good things to take away from this game. Again, I mentioned Drew Lock. Big game for Drew Lock here. 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. Also ran a touchdown in with an additional 47 yards. That's big. He looked good running the ball. I was impressed with his instincts running the ball, quite frankly. When he decided to and how he did it, I really liked that. Thankfully, for him and not for anybody else, he was the leading rusher for Denver Broncos. I mentioned both Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon on the mock star list. And Lindsay went 8 carries for 23 yards with no catches. Melvin Gordon went 6 carries for 18 yards, added 1 reception. Both just brutal games. Did not help you out at all. However, on the outside, plenty of points to be had. The aforementioned Jerry Jeudy, 14 targets. Brought 7 balls in for $125 and a touchdown. Was all over the field. That touchdown, that little stop move, catch the ball, make that quick move to the inside. He looked fantastic. KJ Hamler, the other rookie, the lesser talked about rookie on this team, had 10 targets, caught 6 balls for 75 yards. And Tim Patrick came back. He was hobbled, questionable all week. Got himself 9 targets, caught 4 balls, only 29 yards, but he got into the end zone. So if you played Tim Patrick, that touchdown really helped you there. I don't expect them to have this much passing volume, in most games going forward. So it's hard to imagine 2 or 3 wide receivers, putting up good points like they did in this game. But love the way things look for Jeudy going forward. And, I forgot to mention Noah Fant. Caught all 3 of his targets for 45 yards. Didn't kill you, but you want to see a little more involvement. But, we know that the Falcons can be susceptible to wide receivers. And so you had all 3 wide receivers getting big targets in this game. Kind of makes sense that maybe Fant wasn't heavily targeted. All right, let's go to the Falcons here. Matt Ryan, 284, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Not a bad game by any means. Look pretty good. Would like to see him maybe push the ball downfield just a little bit more at some points during the game. But nice game for Matt Ryan. Todd Gurley back into the end zone. Again, not the most efficient, 19 carries for 53 yards. But you get the touchdown there. You got 2 receptions. You get a couple extra points there. You're happy with Todd Gurley. I mean, when I was looking at it, geez, he can't be that far off. Where was he for the week in PPR? Let's see. I know, right? I should already have this shit up, you think, right? It looks like he's close to the top 12, though. So, I mean, listen, Todd Gurley might have been RB1. So, the touchdowns are real. They throw the ball a lot. They get down the field a lot. He's going to have opportunities to get to the end zone. That's not going to end. As long as he's healthy and they're happy with his performance, he's going to stuff the ball into the end zone. All right, as earlier mentioned, this was kind of a Olamide Zacchaeus day. 6 targets, caught 4 balls for 103 yards and a touchdown. I think it's obvious that if Ridley is back, you can't really play him as any more than a dart throw, just like you were with Russell Gage beforehand. Gage didn't do much in this game. Wasn't much left after Zacchaeus, Julio Jones. Julio, solid game. Five catches, 54 yards and a touchdown on 7 targets. Can't be upset with that. Of course, you're spoiled. You're looking for those big games, but really, it wasn't bad. You're pretty happy with that. And Hayden Hurst, caught 7 passes for 62 yards and 8 targets. You like to see some more high-value targets, but at the end of the day, for tight end, you need 1 or 2 things, if not both. You got to be touchdown, dependent, or you got to have volume. Right now, Hayden Hurst has volume. I'm okay with it. He's consistent right now. He's getting that 4, 5, 6 catches a game. What are you going to say? You like it, but we got what we expected to out of that game, just like we did in this game, man. Seattle at the Bills, Seahawks at the Bills. This was a game for Buffalo to say, hey, we're for real. We can keep up with everybody. Boy, did they. I don't know how much of it was having a healthy John Brown back for Josh Allen, but man, he looked reinvigorated. Some of it's Seattle's porous secondary, but some of it's got to be a little bit of that John Brown effect as well, being that both John Brown had an excellent game and Josh Allen absolutely fucking killed it. Let's talk about the Seahawks first. Russell Wilson, 390 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also ran a touchdown in. So overall, it's a good game for Russell Wilson, fantasy football-wise. But, after 3 picks last week and 2 more this week, a little bit uncharacteristic, but they're letting him throw the ball a lot more. So maybe that's just a natural byproduct of that. On the ground, they didn't do much. They didn't run the ball much here. 7 carries for DJ Dallas, 31 yards. Thankfully, he got into the end zone, though. That saved your day if you played DJ Dallas. Caught 2 passes for 8 yards, but it was the touchdown that at least made it, a viable day for him. Travis Homer did get 6 carries, 16 yards. None of this should be a concern going forward, assuming Chris Carson will be back, which I am. Let's go to the outside here. DK Metcalf, another monster game. 9 more targets, caught 7 balls, 108 yards, and a touchdown, and just looks unstoppable. I mean, at one point he just threw some dude, almost like hand smacked his face into the ground, like his head went towards the ground. He just got taken off his feet. It was pretty ridiculous. I was impressed. But yeah, another big game for him. David Moore, 6 targets, caught 4 balls, 71 yards and a touchdown. He's one of the better wide receiver 3s in the game. He's hard to, rank in your top 40 wide receivers any given week. But he does have weeks like this where he comes through. And, in a game where Tyler Lockett didn't do that much, 4 for 40 on 7 targets, it was kind of inevitable that David Moore might pick up a little bit of slack there. And then there were a lot of targets to the tight ends here. You had 7 for Hollister. You had 3 for Olsen. You had 1 for Disley. Out of all those guys, Hollister was the one that had the game. 5 catches for 60 yards. Didn't see that coming. Greg Olsen, of course, would have been the one you'd play if you played any Seahawks tight end, which you really shouldn't have been looking forward to. So, no reason to think about that. As mentioned, Josh Allen, absolutely fucking great game. 31 of 38 for 415 yards, 3 touchdowns, another touchdown on the ground. That's part of his game. 4 touchdowns. Led his team to victory. They're 7-2. Hopefully that mojo is back for Buffalo and for fantasy owners going forward. They decided just not to run the ball in this game. They were like, you know what, listen, Seattle is very bad at defending the pass. We haven't been great at running the ball. Let's just see what goes if we just throw the ball all game long. You had 9 carries for Zach Moss and 2 for Devin Singletary. Those were all the running back carries, 11 of them. Of course, Josh Allen had 7, but it wasn't like he was taken off at any point during the game, just kind of accidental runs. And then on the outside here, 12 targets for Stephon Diggs, 9 for 118. Another big game. John Brown, as I mentioned, 11 targets, caught 8 balls, 99 yards. You weren't sure how healthy he was going to be. You can't be blamed for not playing John Brown this week. You really just can't. You can't see that coming. I know they were going to have, maybe better numbers against Seattle, but even that was a question mark with how Josh Allen's been playing, with John Brown being hobbled. you totally can be absolutely forgiven for not playing John Brown this week. So try not to beat yourself up over that. Cole Beasley, wasn't enough left for him. Caught 3 passes, 39 yards. It was Gabriel Davis kind of out of nowhere. Caught 4 balls for 70 yards and a touchdown. Can't expect them to have this kind of volume going forward, so he wouldn't be anything more than a crazy deep league dart throw unless we see this for another week or two going forward. So nice game here, tons of points. That's what you want to see. Hopefully you played your Bills and your Seahawks. All right. Oh, let's go to a less fantasy relevant game. Well, relevant in the sense that it didn't help you. It was relevant in the sense that it held you back. If you're one of those teams that scored 104 points this week as opposed to 164, then it might have been you had a lot of these guys. So all right, Tennessee 24, Chicago 17. Chicago attempted to make a little comeback there at the end, but fell short. Nick Foles 335 and 2, no interceptions. A lot of that late, but hey, whenever it happens, it happens. Montgomery was terrible. I know he hasn't been very efficient, but at least the volume has been there. But only 14 carries in this game, so 30 yards, and then didn't really get involved in the passing game. He did catch 3 balls for 12 yards. And, hey, 4 extra points. When it more than doubles your score, I guess you're happy to get those 4 extra points. But that being said, was not what you needed out of David Montgomery. On the outside here, there was a lot of points to go around. It's like nobody had this great game, but there were 4 guys here that had, a good game. Even 5, right? So let's talk about like target leaders. Darnell Mooney was technically the target leader, 11 targets. He caught 5 balls for 43 yards. So while it wasn't a good game for Mooney, it wasn't because he wasn't involved. He's becoming, really important part of this offense. He's not, a flex play or a need to play on a week-by-week basis at this point. But man, like dynasty leagues are just looking forward. Darnell Mooney might be somebody to keep an eye on. Allen Robinson got 9 more targets, 7 receptions, 81 yards. Nice solid game. You're happy with that. Anthony Miller, 8 targets, caught 5 balls for 59 yards. Not a guy I trust week to week yet, but nice to see him have a good game. And then, I mentioned Jimmy Graham. 6 targets, caught them all, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Hey, can't argue with, results. Sorry. Can't argue with results, right? And Jimmy Graham is producing them, so you got to like him right now. Ryan Tannehill completed 10 out of 21 pass attempts for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. So at least he got a couple touchdowns, but obviously not a very good game here for him. Just kind of ugly all around. They were up. It was a shutout through 3 quarters. They were up, 17-0 after 3. So I think they just kind of, were happy to let the game slog along a little bit there. But, Tannehill, wasn't a great game for him. Derrick Henry, him either. He had 21 carries, which is, what you expect, maybe even a little lower than you expect, for 68 yards. So 3.2 yards a clip against a strong defense, but he didn't have a single target, and that's what happens with Derrick Henry. There's not anything else to boost the points. So if the rushing yards aren't there and the touchdowns aren't there, you have no other, enhancer to his stat line here. Not a single target for him. So, man. And just to mention, Donta Foreman got 5 carries. And I only want to bring that up because I know he had a couple of consecutive really bad injuries in Houston, and just, good to see him healthy and out on the football field. All right, let's go to the outside for Tennessee. A.J. Brown, really the only guy to have, a consistent amount of work here. 9 targets, caught 4 balls for 101 yards. Did have a nice long touchdown. He had an A.J. Brown kind of day. This is what you're getting. You're not going to get a guy that catches 9 of 11 targets, right? Some of these are, a little riskier targets and more downfield. So not the efficiency, but you got the big plays. Nice game for A.J. Brown. Corey Davis, this is one that could have killed you. He should have been on the mock stars, but, he gave you a goose egg. He gave you a donut. 3 targets. Didn't catch any of them. And there were definitely people that played Corey Davis. I didn't see him. I didn't look at the numbers. Maybe I'll look it up while I'm just chatting here. But, he was definitely played in a lot of leagues. So. And then Jonnu Smith got back into the end zone, so you're happy to see him get to the end zone, even though it was Anthony Firkser that had a little bit more work than he did. But you're still happy to see Jonnu Smith back into the end zone. At least his owners can say, hey, if I started him, I got, freaking points. He only had 2 catches, 32 yards, but he had the touchdown. 6 targets for Anthony Firkser. You can't be happy about that at all. It's just too many targets for the quote-unquote backup, tight end when you're trying to have your breakout year. Can't have that breakout year, without the targets here. Well, let's see if we can find Corey Davis. All right. We're going to show me all these other Davises. All right. Corey Davis. Rostered in 63% of leagues. I don't see a start percentage, so I don't know. But he was started either way. He killed you. So, not a great game for ye old fantasy owners here. A little bit ugly, but at least you got a few points out of some of your guys. Kind of ugly, though. All right. Let's go. What do we have here? Oh, all right. Another kind of quiet game here. We have the Baltimore Ravens travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Beat them 24-10. I think they scored a defensive touchdown here, if I remember correctly. So not a lot going on for the offense for the Baltimore Ravens. Even in a victory, Lamar, 19 of 23 for 170 yards. No touchdowns through the air. He did run in a touchdown with an additional 58 yards, but still, another one of these, kind of troubling games against, a decently tough matchup in the Indianapolis Colts. But still, you want more out of a superstar, right? You're playing, should be kind of matchup proof if that's the, level of hype here. So, a little disappointing there. Let's see. Pretty much a split workload in the backfield there between J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Edwards ran the ball 11 times for 23 yards, but he did get into the end zone. Also caught 2 passes for 11 yards. J.K. Dobbins, listen, 12 carries, 30 yards. Also caught 2 balls for 5 yards. So an almost identical stat line, but you had the Gus Edwards touchdown. Neither one of them were very good, but Dobbins, Dobbins probably hurt you a little bit there with those 5.5 points, whereas, Gus Edwards gets close to 10, a little easier pill to swallow there. All right, let's look to the outside here. The highest targeted wide receiver was indeed Marquise Hollywood Brown. So I guess when we talk about the squeaky wheel, I guess it depends on how you look at it. He did tie for the team lead in targets, but that's only 5. 3 catches, 38 yards. That's not going to do it. He's not going to feel fulfilled by that stat line there. You had 4 targets for Willie Snead, caught them all, 37 yards. Miles Boykin was not really involved in this game. Devin Duvernay was not involved in this game. And then for the tight ends, Mark Andrews did have 5 targets, but he only caught 3 of them for 22 yards. And then Nick Boyle caught all 4 of his targets for 46 yards. So, when you're splitting work as a tight end, there better be a good amount of work or high-value work. And right now, Mark Andrews is quietly becoming a question mark every week in your lineup, especially where you drafted him. So you're absolutely, sweating that a little bit. All right, and then in Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers struggled, 227, no touchdowns, an interception. They really couldn't get anything going there. Jordan Wilkins did actually almost double up Jonathan Taylor's carries. Wilkins carried the ball 11 times, but only for 39 yards and, caught 2 balls for -1 yards. So if you played Jordan Wilkins, didn't really work out for you. Unfortunately, I was not into playing Jordan Wilkins or really making him a priority this week. Jonathan Taylor, who I thought was going to have a bounce-back game, was not very good. He had 6 carries for 27 yards, but did get the touchdown. Saved your game right there. Caught 2 balls for 7 yards. But obviously that touchdown just gets him over that 10-point hump, and at least, he didn't really hurt your team. As I mentioned, it was a really bad week for running backs. So that touchdown put him into, viable, playability for the week. Let's go to these Colts receivers here. Michael Pittman back off IR. I was surprised to see him this involved. He led tied for the team lead in targets with 7. Caught 4 balls for 56 yards. Not a great game, but it's good going forward for his prospects. If you want to stash him, definitely could do that. Marcus Johnson was the other receiver with 7 targets. Only caught 2 balls for 14 yards. A really bad game there. Zach Pascal, 5 for 55. DeMichael Harris, 4 for 27. So, a big spread here, but nobody really got anything really done. And then in the tight ends, Mo Alley Cox led the way. Caught all 3 of his targets for 43 yards. So when I say he led the way and he was 3 for 43, not very good for the other guys. Trey Burton, 1 for 6 on 4 targets, and Jack Doyle at 0. So, Trey Burton is like, you get used to playing him. I know the matchup was bad, but you were probably thinking about playing Trey Burton. It's possible that you did, and it stung. It stung for sure. It was not a good one for you. All right, let's get through another couple of these here real quick, and then we're going to knock off after that. All right. Oh, yeah, lots of points here. Carolina went to Kansas City. Again, I recommended a lot of players in this game, expecting points to be scored. Kansas City held on 33-31. Again, a nice game by Carolina, trying to come back at the end there, and really held on strong. They're playing strong. They got Christian McCaffrey back. I feel like they've got a lot of confidence right now. So Teddy B, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, another touchdown on the ground. So really nice game there. Christian McCaffrey, right back to work. 18 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. And then 10 catches on 10 targets for 82 yards and another touchdown. Christian McCaffrey having the most Christian McCaffrey game you can have in his first game back. So, welcome back, buddy. We missed you. Mike Davis was not invisible. He had 6 targets, caught 5 balls for 34 yards. So, if you played him thinking, oh, it's still going to be a split in this first week, hey, you weren't like shut out. You had 9 points or so. And, hey, 9 more points than you would have had if you didn't have any work, right? Try to look at it that way. All right, let's look at the target leaders here. Robbie Anderson, 13 targets, caught 9 balls for 63 yards. Hey, he's a wide receiver 3. It should be your expectation. And he scored over 15 points in PPR. So, happy times. Curtis Samuel, another beast game for him. Caught all 9 of his targets for 105 yards and a touchdown. Very efficient, obviously got a connection going with Teddy Bridgewater right now, so you're pretty happy about that. What you're not happy about is DJ Moore and his 3 fucking measly targets, 2 receptions, 18 yards. The roller coaster continues with DJ Moore. Man, in a game where they threw the ball 49 times to get times, where they threw the ball 49 times to get 3 targets, really hurts. Okay, let's do Kansas City. We know they scored a lot of points. Patrick Mahomes, 372 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just another Mahomesian day. I mean, what else can you call it? Another great game. Didn't run the ball very much. 5 carries for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 4 carries for Le'Veon Bell. They both sucked with all of them. Did not get into the end zone. On the ground, Clyde Edwards-Helaire did sneak into the end zone with a pass, a nice little catch and run. He had 5 targets, caught 3 of them for 20 yards and a touchdown. So, hey, 12 and something points, over 12 points in PPR in a bad week for running backs. Wasn't as bad as it should have been. Clyde Edwards-Helaire continues to be just passable, but bad. But, just the way the running backs are going, he's not as bad as it really is. Does that make sense? I don't know. All right. Let's go to the outside here. 18 targets for Tyreek Hill. 9 catches, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both pretty. What are you going to do about Tyreek Hill, man? You got all these other guys to try to cover, spreading the ball out there, and then you get 18 targets to Tyreek Hill. Whew, that's a lot of work for your secondary. Obviously not a lot of work to go around for everybody else if you have 18 targets for Hill and 12 more for Kelsey. So that's a lot. But Hardman caught 3 for 48. Robinson caught 3 for 34. That was it. And then Travis Kelsey went fucking beast mode again. Caught 10 passes, had 12 targets, 159 yards. I mean, he's the only tight end that can really be a tight end 1 without touchdowns. Not a tight end 1, sorry. The tight end 1. He can be the tight end 1 on any given week without a score, which is crazy that he can score 20 points any week, without getting to the end zone. That's just wild. All right. Let's do our last game for the day here. We're going to make it a, oh yeah, doozy. Nah, it wasn't that bad of a game here. Detroit Lions travel to Minnesota, taking on the Vikings. The Vikings pick up the win 34-20. Not the best game for, for some fantasy players, but plenty of points here. Matt Stafford, very disappointing, got knocked out of the game, but 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He got off 32 attempts before he left, so it's not like he left in the first quarter or anything like that, but if you played Matt Stafford, it did not work out for you. All right, so now I'm upset with this because it's not how I called it, but I'm happy because it's the way it should be. DeAndre Swift, 13 carries compared to 8 for Peterson and 4 for Kerryon Johnson, excuse me. Now, that's still too many for Peterson and Johnson, but the point is that Swift was the leader here. 13 for 64, caught 3 passes for 33 yards on 5 targets. So nice involvement there. Again, the only issue here is 3 more targets for Kerryon Johnson, 5 more targets for Adrian Peterson. So that's a total of 13 running back targets, at least that I see. And if that all, not all, but if those 13 targets, if 10 of those go DeAndre Swift's way, he has a big game, right? That's how, guys like McCaffrey can get those monster games. I'm not saying he's Christian McCaffrey. I'm just saying, in a game where maybe you don't have the best game or get into the end zone, but you get 8 catches or 9 catches for 65, 70 yards, boom. I mean, there you go. That's how you get that consistency. Let's hope DeAndre Swift keeps it up and Matt Patricia, gets his beard and shit together here. They're 3-5. Play DeAndre Swift, buddy. Play him. All right, on the outside here, Danny Amendola led the way with 10 targets, 7 catches for 77 yards. When Galladay's out, you never know really what's going to happen. He's going to have the targets. It's always like, is it going to be Marvin Jones? Going to have a certain amount of targets and touchdowns? No. Jones had 4 targets, caught 3 balls for 43 yards and a touchdown. So for the many, 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 many people that played Marvin Jones, you're lucky you got that touchdown. I only say that because I played against him in a couple of leagues, but didn't lose either of them, so it doesn't really matter that much. But either way, added to my stress. And Marvin Jones, I think he's better with Galladay, honestly. And then not too much else for the wide receivers outside of that. Marvin Hall had 5 targets, but caught 3 for 28. And then let's go to T.J. Hawkinson, 8 targets, caught 5 balls, only 39 yards, but he had the touchdown. But it's the 8 targets, right? It's opportunities at the tight end position that you gotta love. And the Hawk is getting them. He's getting the opportunities. So, and then we had kind of the opposite game for the tight end here for the Minnesota Vikings, but a lot of points here for the Vikings. You had 3 touchdowns for Kirk Cousins with, 220 yards. So, a Kirk Cousins type game. He only completed 13 passes on 20 attempts for 220 and 3 touchdowns. So, he was a good streaming option, obviously with the touchdowns, but, the work, no rushing work, and the limited yards holds back his ceiling. Dalvin Cook has no ceiling. He is the ceiling. 22 carries, 206 yards, 2 touchdowns. Oh, yeah, that's just on the fucking ground. He caught both of his targets for 46 more yards. Adds another 6.5 points. 200 more yards rushing. This guy, he may or may not be the best running back in football. You can talk about, a little bit of injuries. Football players get injured. It does happen. As far as a running back, I think it's hard to argue that he's not the best running back in football. And then Alexander Madison got some nice play. 12 carries for 69 yards. And he has these games where he looks good in the limited work. It's like when he gets the bulk of the work, he doesn't look good. When he's the change of pace kind of back, all of a sudden he looks great again. I don't get it. I'm going to bring up Amir Abdullah again because he scored a fucking touchdown in this game. It's like, who caught a touchdown in this game? Did Adam Thielen catch one? No. Did Justin Jefferson catch one? No. Did Kyle Rudolph catch one? No. Did Amir Abdullah catch a touchdown in this game? Fuck yeah, he did. That's crazy. But hey, welcome back to the scoreboard, buddy. Let's go to the outside here. Rough game. You see that. 220 yards passing. I already mentioned that Dalvin Cook had 46. So now we're about 175 yards to go around. And that leads to games like this. Justin Jefferson, 3 catches, 64 yards. Adam Thielen, 2 catches, 38 yards. And then you have the tight ends. Kyle Rudolph was the more active of the two with 4 targets, caught 3 balls for 40 yards. But Irv Smith caught 2 of his 4 targets for 10 yards, and they were both touchdown grabs. So, want to see Irv Smith more involved, but hey, great to see him involved in those high target, red zone, even closer to the red, almost goal line type opportunities for Irv Smith. So, big game for Irv. Big game, Irv. No, I like it though. So, yeah, that's going to do it. We'll cut it there. Tomorrow's waiver wire edition. The waiver wire segment won't be very long. There's not that many waivers. A lot of them were just injury dependent waivers. So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the episode tomorrow. We'll also go over the rest of these NFL games from week 9. Everyone enjoy the game tonight as much as you possibly can. Patriots and Jets, it's funny, I look through like all my leagues, like all the matchups and the scores, and there are basically no games on the line tonight. Like I can't find any games that are close enough, or even almost where anybody's playing people, honestly, that it matters. I don't think almost any games will get decided tonight, but if you have a game that's still to be decided, Godspeed, buddy. All right, so listen, thanks everybody for joining us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, and share all the good stuff. If you're finding us anywhere you can listen to audio podcasts, we appreciate it if you download them, subscribe, like, whatever you do to your audio ones. You can tell how well versed I am with those. And we will be back tomorrow. Have a great night. See you then from the GOAT. Take care. Stay safe. Peace and love.